Hey, what's up, cops? It's Lydia.
Hey, what's up, cops? It's Marcus.
And we took a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back and we got a lot of juicy stuff to talk about. So
Yes.
let's get started. I think we're just going. Well, one, I actually wanted to thank Marcus and I wanted to thank all the folks who are giving us like amazing feedback and in like long paragraphs too. I thought people would just be like, "Yay, great, emoji," because that's how I react to things. So I'm personally very grateful for the folks who are sending us how meaningful our conversations are and that they love tuning in. So thank you very much for all the encouragement and we really love doing these and I love seeing Marcus and chatting with him, so it's all around fun. So thank you all for participating in that and being part of the larger family.
Yeah, and to the point of like, oh, it's more than just like, hey,
Yeah.
or thank you, or it's great. No, folks actually resonating to what
Mm,
we are trying to share, and like sentences or phrases like, oh, like,
yeah.
it's my first time to hear topics like this shared. Please do more of these topics. We like your empathetic and
Mm,
takes on Coptic issues and a deeper understanding and like really good details and
mm,
encouragements and empowerments. And actually, folks also proposed to be on the show. So we would love if
yeah.
you are interested to be on the podcast or on the YouTube or whatever
Yeah.
with us. We'd love to have you. We have amazing expertise in the Coptic
Yeah.
community, and we want to showcase
Mm,
Copts who are non-mainstream or who are on the side or who
yeah.
straddle mainstreamness and non-mainstreamness at the same time. We
Yeah.
welcome you.
Yeah. So keep hitting us up. We're here for
Yes.
it. We're going to start cold cut. No intro to this video, and I think it's just like a minute or two, and then we'll talk about it. So I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna watch this video. I'll just preface it by saying this was going viral on Facebook. Um, that's how we found it. So we decided to look into it and kind of talk about it. So here we go.
The rest of the church needs your song. We need to hear what this ancient faith sounds like, a faith that we share. Songs that we need to learn, and maybe some songs we can teach as well. Your songs are our songs. Your hymns are our hymns. These are the songs of the body of Christ. And so it strengthens my spirit. It draws me closer to Christ to hear you pray. If the voices were gone, the rocks themselves would sing, right? And we've known that even if our voices stopped, the rocks themselves would cry out in praise to God. So as hard as it is to sing in these days where there is so much fear and so much anxiety, I will try to learn your words so that if your voice drops out, I will carry it. But together we will sing, and I give honor to God and thanks to your grace, Bishop David, for inviting me. May the Prince of Peace bring peace quickly here and to Egypt. I'm grateful to be with you tonight.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Uh, yeah. What I think the thing that triggered me when I first saw this on Facebook was her style of talking, because that type of speechy voice takes a long time of practicing of what to enunciate and when and what how to get the rhythmic beat into it. Um, so that first of all, once I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, this person has kind of like rehearsed this and taken like I don't know. They are very much into this kind of emphasizing things and giving emotion to the words that are not as meaningful. um, so anyways, it's just a very fascinating thing to me. That was the first thing where I was listening to this, and then also the looming Emba David behind her was just a lot. Like the videography of it was wild. That was the first two things that stuck out to me was like her tone and then like Emba David right there.
And honestly, when I see videos like this, so folks might be saying or wondering, oh, why Lydia is like talking about this or like feeling uneasy hearing something like this. There is a lot of background to such videos or such events
Yeah.
happening in our communities. First, this is a style of sermonizing
Yeah.
at many white churches. We're not used to it, but this is actually this is a person, by the way, who is trained to give sermons. So maybe also,
But I think this is also very like specific. I'm gonna make a leap here, but I think this is very specific to like the Black community, because I don't feel like I hear many white preachers speak like with this cadence. I don't know, like the methodical beat to it seems very Black Protestant to me.
So-
Like Martin Luther King type of language. So I feel like this type of I don't know. Being from the South, this is I don't know. That from my context, like this is such a weird thing to hear like someone take such a rhythmic way of speaking. And yeah, it just makes me uncomfortable, but yeah.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying, because also this person is a leader in the churches of Boston to bring churches together from different backgrounds, and she is part of like initiatives from white church,
Okay,
predominantly white church, to reach out to
have to reach out.
ethnic and racialized churches like us. So it's part of like, oh, maybe this is how they understand. Oh, I want to appeal to those racialized folks, or and maybe they don't really understand the nuances and the differences between Black churches and an ethnic church like the Coptic Orthodox Church. We don't sermonize like this. It's not our type. Like there are many differences, and we see in left white Christianity, they like they really appeal to we are reaching out, and we are like really like to feature or speak to our siblings in the Coptic Orthodox Church, whatever. But the reality is they are not always ready to learn nuances, and they just
Yeah.
blot us into one buckets. It's like, oh, those are Arabs, or those are Muslims, or those are
Yeah.
Africans. No, there are so many nuances to how to talk to each single community and communities within that community. So this is one thing. I think also there has been like a 2 more minutes. Like, yes, we have watched. So for some folks who are like would say like, oh, you don't know the rest of the story, and then no, we actually watched the whole concert and this specific segment. So this segment has been we are gonna include the segment, the whole segment in the
Links.
description, so you can find it out. But this person has been introduced by Amber David, the Bishop of New York and New England, and it happened in Boston. And it featured David Ensemble, Farik David, a very prominent Egyptian hymn-based ensemble in Egypt, and they brought it, and they made that really like big concert, which is really nice to see happening in a like a concert hall in the U.S., which is, I think, it's really nice to branch out and like to bring our heritage to the broader community and outside of the church buildings. But also there are ways to do this where without centering whiteness or centering the colonizers in the conversation. This actually, they really ended the concert with this speech from a white pastor that is telling us telling us how to sing and telling us what we need to do and telling us that we are your savior when you are going to need a savior. We're going to be standing by you. Come on, like we have been seeing repeatedly that this white, leftist, progressive, whatever, yes, they tokenize us immigrants and racialized folks when crisis happen. And then when real issues happen on the ground, they don't know what to do. They don't understand. They just come and fakely sympathize. But the reality is, we really don't need you. You need you to save us. You can do other things to be an active ally, but not just come and crash a place. And actually, they have been officially also invited. And this is another thing: the leadership in our community, they haven't invited a woman, a Coptic woman, to talk about these Coptic hymns. We have Coptic women professionals who have been studying Coptic music, but they are not allowed to take a leadership position like this white woman who gave basically an ending speech for a big concert like this. Anyway, I can reflect more.
I also did not like what she was saying. I found it just such weird. I feel like if you listen to such a huge performance with this huge, choir and orchestra, to come up and say and use a verse that even the Rocks would sing, is such a weird. I don't know. It's such a weird, like, what are you comparing us to? Like, we're, like, a degree above the Rocks if we weren't singing. I don't know. I don't want to be, like, too, like, that person. But I also am just very interested in why such a person did not choose a number of psalms to quote about praising God and praising God all over the world of all nations. But instead chose such, like, a nihilistic way of looking at it, of like even if the Rocks didn't sing, and as if like also that persecution narrative. I don't know if we've spoken. I know I've spoken to Marcus about this, but I don't know if we've spoken on the podcast about this. But this way of like Christianity will cease and the Rocks will sing, and like this doomsday mentality about Christians around the world and persecution and the end of times. When you just heard a concert, I feel like that's such a weird thing. Like, that's not natural. And to me, that makes it seem like she's coming in from a space still of racializing and seeing our music and our art forms as like, nothing to be worthy of like just praise, but of this nihilistic just it could all end. And you know what, if it did end, I would be singing your tunes. It's such a weird, I don't know what you call it. I haven't had enough coffee to like pull out the books and be like, this is colonizer 23.5 of the index. I don't know of what they say about people of color, but it's such a weird, I don't know. I feel like someone would have to get up after that and just be like, BT dubs. We've been doing this for thousands of years. We're going to be doing it. We don't need you all to come in and be the Rocks that, I don't know, like, yeah. And religion isn't about nihilism, about, doomsday, rapture. end of times, especially after seeing something so beautiful. There's no reason to bring it like full on. Yeah. And then also like the whole connection between Egyptians and persecution too is just like cannot be escaped. Like that will always be the white mentality around our history, even after they've seen this full choir. So there's like no connection to our ancestors who sang in the same style, or like I was always stunned now that there is so much that goes into like Coptic music and how it's created and how it's even like Eastern forms of music, which we never learned that we were learning very complicated forms of music just sitting in the church listening to Manam. That our little brains were picking up all of this, and that's because we never learned it in school, or we never learned to appreciate it as like a very high form of art. But always our narrative is just, you poor people, if you disappear, we will be here. We white people will survive you and carry your music. So it rubbed me the whole wrong way of like, you could have just said anything. You could have just read a psalm and sat down, but why did you choose? So many choices were made that did not have to be made here. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, and again, I think we need, like, for people who are listening to us for the first time, I think it's important to, this is not necessarily pointing fingers at a person as much as it's...
Yeah, I don't know her, so I don't, yeah. I feel like you can't personally dodge somebody, but yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, no, it's about the systemic racism and systemic supremacy that exists in our communities and outside of our communities. Because also, she would have not given the platform if the leadership of this concert
Right.
haven't invited her to give a speech. And actually, I'm going to play the invitation and how they were trying to like introduce that person to the concert, because it is important to really to point out how it's also ingrained in us that we need the white music, we need the Western music, we need the Western style of music, of notation. We need the concert hall to make and legitimize and make our music more legitimate, more bigger, because we feel like, you know what, no, our music is messy, we don't use music notation, and like, no, we have to like wear like Western suits and like sing like la, 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 instead of like a. So it's no, actually we can celebrate both, in my opinion, but also we don't need to supremize the Western way of singing our music. You can play with our music. I think actually this is part of the worded heritage, and it could be played by any person and improvise and everything. But we need to center our Coptic way of singing and celebrate it and be proud of, and not necessarily fetishize a Western way of doing our music, as it's a better way, or we need to get a white Western person to legitimize our musics. We don't need that. And even if that person, we can invite them, when they come on that stage, they need to understand like they need to add a commentary about how this is an integral part of world music. We need to put funds to protect it and to make more of these concerts, and we need to bring more people from the Western world, white world, to come and listen to these musics, to share and build the bridges. There are so many things that could have been said
Right.
instead of this like white savior supremacy
Yeah.
stuff that we in our communities actually we have been taught and conditioned to like. The title in Arabic of this segment on the one of the leaders of David Ensemble is says اللي بيقول الأجانب مش بيحبوا الألحان القبطية يسمعوا المدير التنفيذي لكنايس بoston. So there is a feeling in that title of, you know what, you Copts who don't like or who don't appreciate Coptic hymns, come hear from the pastor from Boston, their commentary about Coptic hymns. We actually don't need. We don't need to like put a title like this to. Why do we feel demeaned and like, oh, Coptic people don't appreciate the heritage? So maybe if this is one thing, actually don't blame it on the Coptic people. If this exists, maybe actually what have we done? Because actually fetishizing it and westernizing our Coptic hymns doesn't make Coptic people appreciate Coptic music more. Maybe embrace the mess. Maybe embrace the tunts who are sitting in the back and their voice are not unified or something, but this is actually an important and integral part of our music. People just don't need to like their voice to be unified and sound as one person like Western music to legitimize Coptic music.
And actually, this is like super ironic because this choir is coming from Egypt because we don't have choirs at this level in the United States because they're not funded, and because we in the United States have developed this mentality under white supremacy that our art is less than. I was actually just in a conversation with somebody about trying to put on a concert for the Feast of St. Mary this month with Muslim and Coptic choirs here in Nashville. And it's like it's just a while. There's also like a lot of drama going on with the art scene here in Nashville and people of color not getting funding for this type of thing because it's seen as like who wants to fund that when we can fund the symphony and the Frist and the arts and all these like multi-million-dollar, I don't know why you would want to fund multi-million-dollar institutions. But anyway, so this is the drama that's going down right now. But it's just funny to me that someone would come up in front of a choir that is super successful in Egypt, a quote-unquote Muslim majority country. Well, it is factually a Muslim majority country. And this is a choir that's doing all these tours and has funding and is just also just nationally well known. And we don't have something like that in the United States. And there's no question as to why a Christian majority country like the United States has not fully embraced other Christian traditions to fund and support our forms of music in the way we want to see it produced and performed. So it's just like there were things that could have been said that would actually have been productive for the larger community, and in realizing the irony of standing before an all Egyptian choir and saying stuff like this. So yeah. So
Yep, let's play how Amber David and the priest in Boston introduced this pastor.
okay, I think here we go. Do you have sound on? I can't hear it. Okay.
How do we do the sound on? There is sound in the.
Yeah. I can okay, it's just low.
Yeah, is it working?
Yes. I can
The
hear
sound.
it.
The sound is working now? Okay.
Yeah.
Reverend Laura, about what she heard today. Number one, because she is not obviously Egyptian and this music is new to her. And before everything started, I said to her, "You're here, very ancient music." So, Abuna Samuel, can you please introduce her?
Thank you, Sayyidina. Reverend Laura Everett is the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Council of Churches. She works very hard in the ecumenical work of the church, and it's her that's actually reached out to us, the Coptic Church, on many occasions to help build unity and for the Coptic Church to be known here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. An example was on Palm Sunday, after the situation that we heard about in Egypt. Reverend Laura actually left the church that she was visiting, and she came directly to the Coptic Church of St. Mark in Natick. She attended the liturgy with us, and she brought with her palm leaves as an example that we are sharing in the suffering that the Coptic Church is suffering in. So we definitely... So Reverend Laura has definitely done an amazing job in helping the Coptic Church to be known in Massachusetts and also with other churches that she works with. So she's a very important person in the state of Massachusetts, and we always welcome her, and she welcomes us. So thank you.
Ibrahim Ayed is there? Okay.
After saying
Amazing.
at the end, so she's not prepared. We only told her literally 10 minutes ago.
And then she starts her spiel. A couple of things here. So you see in a concert, this almost 3 minutes introduction from an archbishop and a priest to a woman. Like, have we had an introduction to? Is it normal to have women, Coptic Orthodox women, Coptic women, being introduced with this festivity in our Coptic gatherings? Or they are just part of the choir? Or maybe they are in the background. They are there, like they are never at the front. They are never with the deacons. And we know with the amazing work of the Coptic Women Sing 2 project, the like how folks, even like in California, when they started the diaconate choir, and the challenges that they have been having until this day, they don't have like an actual space at the front of the church. It is just a pew, and they never have a microphone in front of their mouths. So it's like I cannot help it, but when I see a white woman giving that big platform, not to think about, oh, where's our Coptic women being at the front talking about our Coptic music. We have experts in Coptic women and Coptic music, and the RPGD, the R profs, they are not given that platform. And these leadership actually know who these Coptic women are.
Yep.
But they don't give them the same platform. They just give it to the white people. And one last note. This leadership, either Amber David or the priest from Boston, I'm sure they know that the Reverend Everett is a queer woman. And she is married to another woman.
Spicy.
And do they I wish actually like that our queer Coptic people are being celebrated and giving that platform at the front of a concert. So to the Coptic Orthodox leadership, just like, oh, they don't think about when they talk about the narrative of like queer people, of like, oh, they are sin people, they are sinful and stuff like that. Yes, we love everybody, but we don't like the sin. All this like narrative. Did Amber David introduced the Reverend Everett with that to tell her, hey, we are happy to have the Reverend Everett, that we know that she is a queer person and married to another woman. We love everybody, but we don't like the sin. You are a sinner, and we don't like the sin, but we love everybody. Here you go. You can tell a thing about the Coptic music that you just learned. Another photo that in the same topic. This is the gathering at the largest church in Canada, Saint Mark in Markham, over Easter of this year. And in this photo, the Prime Minister of Canada was attending this is actually the largest gathering of Egyptians outside of Egypt to be addressed by that biggest head of a state or head of the government. So it never happened in the history of Copts in diaspora to have attended a feast by like a leader of a government like this. So it happened last Easter in Canada. But guess what? So on the right, there is the Liberal government, the government, and the opposition, which is the Conservative. Most Copts in Canada vote for the Conservative for many reasons. But guess what? The Conservative Party leader was very late. And then the team of leadership was led by a queer member of the parliament, Melissa Ledsman, as well. So another instant in Canada, not only in the US, putting white queer people at the front. White women, queer people at the front. Do we give our Coptic queer women people that seat in our Coptic churches?
Yeah. And why that's important too is the performative nature of it, you know. And well, one, first and foremost, the hypocrisy, which is very Pharisee like, but the performative nature of giving, you know, white queer people or white women or white queer women space and not offering that to women within our own spaces shows us that you don't really care about women's rights, you don't care about queer people, you don't care about diversity, you don't care about evangelism, you just care about your own ego as a bishop or as a priest or certain community members, because you wouldn't be hypocritical about women taking up space, queer people being in space, if it weren't that they had a certain identity, i.e. whiteness, to enter into your space.
Yeah, and I honestly want to give a space now more to our Coptic women in the conversation about why, and this is actually, I think that's the main reason why we featured that video and how this video was trending and basically fetishized all over the social media to teach you Copts. Oh, this is how we would teach you through featuring a white person appreciating Coptic music, how to appreciate your very own Coptic music. What you said, Lydia, actually about a concert for Saint Mary between Egyptians, Copts, and Muslims reminded me actually of one time there was a social media post of a Coptic priest in New York who really posted a very beautiful mediha that was actually, I think, performed in at a church in Said or a church from a lower socioeconomical class in Egypt, and folks were like the dressed one Egyptian woman as Saint Mary, and they were singing the Madiha, and they got this person, and people were really alienating and ululating, and like it was like the typical mess of a Coptic church, which honestly, I love celebrating the Coptic mess.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
there are like many converts white converts, who convert to Coptic Orthodoxy. They convert for that very reason, for the coffee hour, the very specific, like very messy and full of life coffee hour, and the full of life at church too. And the mess is a big part of it. But what happened in that post, I found multiple orthobros, multiple
Wow.
super deacons are shunning and looking down at their very own heritage. Because, like, you know what? Madayah and these songs are not as
Oh my gosh.
supreme like Alhan. And what people are doing in the church is like, doesn't لا يليق بمكان ربنا, or are all these
Oh my gosh.
like things.
It's not appropriate for church.
And
Or
then,
it's
and that's
not
the
fitting.
issue, you make the church a very confining space. You really oppress people enjoying hymns, and then you want people back to say like, oh, why people don't like Coptic hymns? See, the white folks are really appreciating the Coptic hymns. No, because like you don't really understand the happiness of like you give people that space. Like, oh my God, like I heard actually, I really loved that one of the bishops, like one time Amber Rafael, I know that he might have other thoughts, but he would say like, get the kids into the church and like let them play in the altar, let them play. Like the constant shunning of
Yeah.
people, whether
Yeah.
kids, whether women, whether like
Yeah.
this
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah.
work. You need to celebrate the mass. And
Yeah.
converts actually talked about this. Like one of the converts who released a book, he's like trying to teach us to appreciate our mass. Because what? He is having a space. He's giving a space to talk about this, but not Copts like us giving that space to talk about it. If he said like, oh, you know what? Embrace your mess, embrace your tradition, embrace your coffee hour and the taunts and the uncles, he would be giving the space, but not us. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it hit deep. It hit deep. Let's show this page by Coptic Women Sing Too on Instagram for folks to follow. Yeah, a lot of good. Oh, I think they update. Is that the website?
So this is actually this project, Coptic Women Sing Too, is a project that funded by two American universities, and it is featured on the religious sounds .osu.edu, and it is a work of Dr. Ramsey and Dr. Yusuf. It features, do you see how we can celebrate our Coptic women singing and put them to the front? And whether this is a conversation around like, because in the Coptic community, they keep saying, oh, you want to be deacon. You want to be, whether whether they want to be deaconess or not. And actually, because this should be a conversation too, there shouldn't be like this, like tiptoeing around like, oh, no, we're not talking about being deacons. We're talking about other things. So because they are afraid of like the pushbacks from these super deacons or the trolls or the orthobros, this is not necessarily about taking a clerical position. Yes, maybe if you are equitable, if you are really talking about equity and equality in the Coptic church or in the Coptic spaces. If you're really giving, put them at the front. Whether they are dressed in deacons or not, you know what? We know in our Coptic churches there are multiple incidences that you would see a Coptic man who doesn't dress in tunias sitting in the front of the pews. I grew up seeing my ma'allim never wearing a tunya. Never wearing a tunya. So how this person was different from a woman that is not, according to the Coptic Orthodox canon, is not eligible to wear a tunya. And multiple ma'allimin and multiple head deacons in Egypt, they never wear a tunya. So how is that like, you know what, you can put them to the front in whatever capacity. You can replace the white speaker who doesn't know anything about the Coptic hymns with experts, with any of these women who's like putting their work out on the internet to talk, to say like, we exist, we sing too, we lead too. There has been actually a one of the largest places on the internet for folk culture and heritage. It's the Smithsonian Center for Folk Life, just featured Coptic Women Sing Too as a project to talk about and center Coptic women and who sing and lead. So does this white pastor did an article like this to appreciate and talk about Coptic women? Have she spent, or other people spent their life to sing and actually challenge leadership in our Coptic community to have that space and to wear this the not very tonya? Because if they call tonya, folks would say like, oh, this is not a tonya, this is just a choir thing and whatever. But they fought hard for years to just wear this like symbolic white vestment that's not a tonya or not a deacon.
That's the other thing too, is when the priest was like, this is someone who has supported the Coptic community and wants to get to know us, and then his example is that she came to pray with them on Palm Sunday. And it's just, like not fully aware of what the dynamics are within the community. And ways that she could actually support Coptic people and not just the Coptic hierarchy. Those are two different things.
And why is you just supporting us when basically shit hit the fan? When there's stuff when we are just featured in American news, when there are big stuff happening. Are we centered in other occasions? You can talk a lot about this, Lydia, working in the community with working class Egyptians. How many times they are featured in news? Oh, ditto. I'm not gonna open up that topic today, but that is just it's a big issue here of people who think they know what it means to be Arab, what it means to be Coptic, and and the actual issues within our community that we don't have a newcomers orientation. Actually, no, I'm not gonna go down this path. I'm not gonna open up the Facebook drama. Maybe at another
Yes,
episode, maybe
another
our next episode, talking about the newcomers in our community and like newcomer churches versus elite and evangelizing churches.
I'll make it like fully. I'll just say, if I could summarize, the church has rejected creating a newcomers orientation program. And people don't like that in Nashville. So they're like, we're not going to participate in helping hundreds of people come to Nashville because this is against the law and they're illegal. So they've started calling their own people illegal, which is great. Yeah. So they're denying people service. They don't want to do any type of khidma, like filling out job applications, anything for people. So it's getting very ugly here on the ground. So, yeah.
So you are giving white people even on the left. So she's obviously a left. So you're giving white people on the left a platform to talk about your Coptic music. But also you are giving white people on the right who
Yep.
demonize your very own immigration process or migration process, and you're demonizing and like demeaning your struggle as an immigrant and migrant and working class based community.
Yep.
So you're both in both ways. You're and then rejecting an organization like Al Mahabba and other organizations on the ground to really like, you know what, you are having your always as a leadership in the Coptic diocese in North America complaining about newcomers. Here is an organization that is telling you, you know what, we are happy to do an orientation to you
Yep.
and your volunteers and to your newcomers about how like to orient themselves and to find resources in the community. And guess what? Because you're watching Fox News and Newsmax and Shapiro and all the folks, now you are demonizing your very own newcomers.
Yeah. 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 It's the beginning of something here. I feel like the
Yes.
tides are shifting about how we see what does it mean to be Coptic? What does the Coptic hierarchy have to do with our identity? Because those are two separate things. There's the hierarchy works for profit and for their own egos, and then you have the Coptic people. So, yeah.
And again, I think in our circles there are many people in a position of leadership in the Coptic Orthodox
Yes.
Church, and this is what I told them honestly in an understanding and an empathetic way too.
Yeah.
Here are the ways that we
Yeah.
can provide as folks who are working and doing community work at other organizations that have been working on the ground for many years. These are the thoughts that can help sustain and fund and like make our Coptic communities in diaspora healthier, more efficient, more sustainable. Take these ideas from us and not complain after 10 or 20 years that, oh,
Yep.
the church is empty. We are not
Yeah.
getting, we are not able to pay the heating bills or
Yep.
or the air conditioning bills for these buildings. Guess what? These are the consequences. We are telling you.
Yep.
And we are super proud Copts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Amen to that.
I want to share with folks the Coptic Women Sing too. This is one project that you can basically like follow like amazing posts on their
Yeah.
on their channel. So yeah, engage and share it with other folks. And if we can't center Coptic women on the ground in our Coptic communities, yet we can center them virtually online. So follow and engage and share with others.
Yeah. It's a very good note to end on.
And of course,
happy note.
follow Al Mahabba Center and their
For the
work that they
drama.
do on the ground. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll schedule a new episode, inshallah, about other dramas. But if anyone has any other suggestions, if you want to send us videos to comment on or any news, we are completely open to that. Just DM us. And yeah, we're looking forward to your feedback. And I will see you soon, Marcus.
See you, Lydia. See you, everybody.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye.